Well, hello there, everybody. Technical difficulties. Yes, the bus was having to go through inspection, and y'all know what that's like. You got to have the little guy, and he's looking at things. And then, of course, they'll always find something wrong.
You
It's just the
you
way
drive
it
really
is.
good, Wayne. You drive really good. I'm watching. Nope, do this. I'm like, look at him
It's like,
go, wizard.
geez, it's like, okay. But anyway, we are back and we are live, and it feels good. And I can see
Yes.
that Miss Jenny is down there somewhere, I think. But in any case, we just want to say thank you for dropping in, tuning in, and turning on with us. We speak favor over you, nothing missing, nothing broken. And we are so happy that you're here. So, this is Tuesday, which is a second look. Been doing this for years and years. I see Grandpa Brian, Linda, Scotty Boy, saw Jules in there a minute ago. Rick, how are you doing? So, welcome. Eye of the Maelstrom. Haven't seen you in a while. Gaia, how are you looking? She says you're looking beautiful. That's
Aw,
true. I mean, just
much
a
love. I love you.
fact.
Thank
So,
you.
how has your week been, Miss
It's
Trina?
great. Yeah,
Yeah.
great. Busy. Yep. I'm watching my daughter go after new dreams. It's just been a good week.
Good, good, good. Is it still hot there?
Mhm. 111 today.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. No, man.
Yeah. It's a little
My
toasty.
ancestors came from the north. Hey, Timothy, good to see you. Scotty boy, everybody else. Uh, hey, Jenny, good to see you, kiddo. What's up?
Hi.
Hi, lovely. I've missed you guys.
Missed you.
We've missed you. Yeah. You get used to something, and then when it's kind of removed, it's like, wow, that was
Yeah, it
pretty
feels like
cool.
it's
I go through
months.
Wayne withdrawals when you MIA on me. It's not good
Not by purpose,
for
I
the
can
whole
assure
Trina
you,
spirit thing here. It's
you know.
no, no.
Hello, go, go. Good to see you. So, Jenny, how have you been? I haven't seen you in a month of Sundays, as the idiom would
Uh,
say.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm working hard. I've got the website launched, so that happened just the other day. So I'm going to be working on different launch things that I can do to get it out there. So I'm super happy, very happy. Um,
Cool. Congratulations on.
Thank you, and some more orders coming in the moment I went live. So, and I haven't announced it anywhere yet because I'm just waiting to see if there's any, those hiccups that only become apparent when people go to use
Yeah,
it.
we pressed.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I'm waiting to see. There hasn't been many so far before I go and launch
And we
it
say that
properly.
there won't be many in the future either.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I
Yeah,
think I
yeah.
think it's pretty smooth so far. So I'm
Cool.
thrilled with it.
And how is our little one in school these days?
Our little one is jumping with little creepy crawlies, hence my hat tonight. He came home with friends. So
Oh,
we've all been oiling up this afternoon. So there's oil dripping down the back of my neck. There's oil dripping down the back of the boys' necks.
oh,
Um,
I have
the
forgotten
children.
about that. Kids and head
Oh,
lice.
yeah, and
Hmm.
Theo on the way home, in Theo fashion, was saying bioweapon and running up to his friends and rubbing his head on their tummy, which I don't think the other mothers found as funny as the kids did. So he
right.
was he was using himself as a bioweapon on the way home.
Oh,
So
but
I'm not the
Ay,
most
ay.
but he's taking it well.
Ah.
Will, on the other hand, is nearly passing out.
Well, that'll test your tolerance, won't it, as a parent, you know?
Uh-huh. There was a few looks, but it's rampant in the schools. I don't know
Is
what's
it
going on.
really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's getting
Wow.
worse in the UK. We used to have something called a knit nurse, and she would go around looking for these little knits in your hair, head lice. And it was a really great system because eggs would be picked up real quick and it would be sent home with a treatment. But now there's no such nurse. And actually, the treatments, people don't realize that they can be quite neurotoxic. That's
yes.
how they work on the parasite. But um they're actually becoming resistant in the UK and have been for the last few years, quite a lot of resistance, against the general stuff that you would buy, to kill them off. So that's a bit of a worry, those
Wow.
micro things that could sneak in and take over. So yeah, we're covered in rosemary, oregano, thyme, and tea tree oil right now. That's a mix of the four.
Now,
So,
I went to school. Kindergarten for me was in 1960. And I don't ever remember having, any type of thing that now I did get kicked out in the first grade because I was a carrier of strep throat, but it was a
hmm.
different thing. I was, the
You know,
bubonic.
my niece was facing that. They were going to kick her out of school for being a carrier of strep, and we actually resolved that with high doses of colostrum, and it worked. And then you know what's really cool? Once she kicked it, have you ever had strep throat since?
Oh, no, 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 no. The United States
See,
Air Force
her
did a really good
neither.
job of
Yeah, she doesn't
eliminating.
get it either. She doesn't ever get it. I'm like, you guys immune somehow to that. That's really cool.
Well, my dad was in the Air Force, so we were living with our grandparents. So all of our medical care, we went to Travis Air Force Base, and the United States Air Force doctors saw fit to give me a shot in the morning and a shot in the evening of penicillin. And folks, that was the old days of the thick
Mhm.
penicillin. And if you can just imagine when a kid of 6, you know,
Yeah.
and I got to tell you, psychologically today, when I was in the hospital recently, but I can still remember. In fact, I'm right there right now. Flashback. Doo 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 doo. Was the smell when we walked through those doors? They were wooden doors on the Air Force Base. It was the smell of alcohol,
Wow.
isotope talk, and because it permeated everything I remember. So anyway, I digress. Well, we just trust that Theo will rid himself of the friends and that it won't be spreading to anywhere else. And it's like when I used to travel a lot, the thing that always freaked me out was bed bugs,
Oh,
you know.
yeah.
And
Oh,
there wasn't a real problem back then, but today I'm glad I don't travel like I used to because bed bugs are like everywhere, and now they're finding them on the plane.
and on metros and trains
Yeah,
in
I
the
mean, and those little things just creep me out.
And they make
Yeah.
people poorly. People don't realize that these parasites, if you have them long term, they do affect your immune system because they're constantly draining you and constantly attacking your immune system. But without their cover being blown, like with oregano oil, rosemary oil, wormwood, like someone said in the chat, then they've got this bio cover that actually gives them an invisible cape to our immune system. So our immune system, until that little bio cape is taken off with oregano oil, rosemary oil, that's when our immune system can then like raise the alarm and say, intruders, and go to start attacking these parasites, whether they're within the body or outside of the body. So they've got a really clever system of hijacking the body and staying undetected until something like those oils break through this biocape that they have that makes them in. Isn't that clever? It's
Yeah.
terrifying, but it's clever that
Yeah.
they've
Our
got
whole
this.
existence is, you think about it in this realm, you come into these physical bodies, and we've got, millions of microscopic beings that are feeding off of us, cleaning us. I mean, if you haven't changed your mattress in 10 years, they say you have 10 pounds of your dead flesh in that mattress. And in that mattress and that dead flesh, it's supporting this whole ecosystem that that they live and they exist on your dead flesh. And you think about it, it's bad enough with all the challenges that we face in this realm, but you're constantly under attack. If it isn't the microorganisms, then it's like you said, Jenny, it's the viruses or the parasites, the bacterium. And the most miraculous thing is that for the most part, we survive it.
Yeah. Yeah. The body finds a balance and nature
Well,
finds a balance.
I think maybe it just goes, maybe there's a natural button, that the geneticists, when they made it, said, oh, well, that flips on when this happens. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it does in nature, like Gaia says, even citrus tea, that's another great one that opens up that biofilm as well. So nature has these hacks as well to keep everything in a little bit of alignment, doesn't it? Keep everything in
Scotty
a bit
Boy
of
says, my mattress is older than 10 years. Yikes.
yikes. What weight you carrying,
It's
Scotty?
pretty gross, I know. By the way, I'll be with Mr. Ryder Lee today over in his channel, Raised by Giants,
Mhm.
2 p.m. Central, I believe. So check
Is
it
he
out.
feeling better?
I hope he is. He texted
Hope
me
so.
and
Good.
said that he is back. And so I told him, just take your time, let your body heal. And yeah, because there are things going around that, wow, that'll flat bring you down. I mean, it's true.
Hmm.
You know. Well, Jenny, we just again just send healing and everything there, just to get rid of those critters. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, about ready to sing people's heads.
It is odd because so we were talking before we went live, and it's interesting. I thought about this because I was in a discussion over on Academic EU, and some professor wrote that the sum total of our existence, of our understanding, and this is why I kind of titled it, is that the understanding that you possess is gathered between the time you're born to the time you die. And that the reality of our existence is that we're all waiting to die. No matter what we do, no matter how we occupy ourselves, we're all waiting for that moment of death. And it got me to thinking that, and we do a lot of it here. We study here, we read different books and a lot of different commentary. And but we're all at a different level of understanding. And someone wrote and said that if we could just find peace in the understanding of what we understand, that's really the total fulfillment of the purpose of us being here. So what say y'all?
Really,
Trina?
it's isn't it? It's being able to be in that present moment, isn't it? And ironically, in that present moment, there's a time for seeking, but there's more time for contemplation, I think, because more of the answers come in the contemplation when you can find peace and restfulness in order to stay still enough in the present, even if you're active and moving and having fun, but to really take in the moment is is paramount because those moments do pass. And if you can be present, you can record so much more of that one moment or of that one bit of text that you're reading. If you can submerge yourself in the moment that you're in, I think it's very, very, very
So
true.
understanding for you would be then is, you know, something I think so many people strive for, but few of us ever reach is living in the moment, the now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. What about how do you see understanding, Trina, for individual as you sojourn through this experience?
Understanding to me is like believing in a concept and standing underneath it as your foundation and your strength. And that's changed through my life so many times. What I understood once, I don't see it the same way now. So I know that understanding is temporary. And like Jenny was saying, the present moment now is kind of all you got. Where are you consciously? Where does your thought processes go? Because you're a match with those images. And, as consciousness evolves and expands, so does your understanding and your awareness. And then you start to perceive the reality in a different way. So I think it's a profound thing that's ever changing, and we're evolving with it as we conceive and perceive the different things in our experiences that help us grow and bring in more information.
So how would then we, furthering the discussion, is then if we have an understanding and each person's understanding is predicated to either their experience or what they perceive to understand. I like how you said it, Trina, that it understanding evolves.
Yeah.
I mean, my understanding today of God is far different than my understanding of God 15 years ago.
Yes. And it's bigger.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I don't even see it as a personification anymore.
No,
I
it's
just
never
see it
was.
as a, in physics, they teach that, you have waves and you have particles, and which gets us to this next point. So in this discussion that I got into, and there were the professors, and it was good discussion. So one of them pointed out that science, physicist, what science is, cannot prove consciousness. And so the discussion ensued. How do we know that we're conscious? We say what conscious is. And it was interesting because there's like 40 people in this discussion. And it got really interesting seeing what people were perceiving as consciousness. And it dawned on me, do we really understand what consciousness is? I mean, so to my honorable guest, I'll start with you, Trina. So define consciousness for you. And then, Jenny, I want to hear what your definition of consciousness is. And into the chat room, please put in what you perceive consciousness to be. And then when we get finished with the discussion, I think it'd be interesting to go back and it will show something. So, Trina, consciousness. What does it mean for Miss Trina Phoenix?
I used to believe that consciousness was simply the ability to think. And through my investigation of consciousness, a consciousness now to me appears to be the fabric of all existence that I can see in the manifested worlds. But it's the ability to perceive and know I am. So the awareness is the perception that gives you the presence of that consciousness. And I do not think that consciousness is the same in different places in the solar system. I think that as we are sons of God, as we were told, I see the solar logos that operates in different systems are all unique, different consciousness. So consciousness has changed in the way I understand it, as all of it has through my expansion of my own consciousness. So consciousness is really, I think, the fabric of everything, but I don't think it's something you could define, because just like humans, there's so many different personalities and myriads of potentials we're all experiencing on just this planet. When you look at the potentials galactically, cosmically, and then omnipotent presently, there's like three layers I see of consciousness. And where you go with your consciousness is where you will perceive what consciousness is. So consciousness will not stop expanding as long as you can expand with it.
Cool. Jenny.
So the same way
By
you
the
could
way, I'm
take like,
loving the answers. Are y'all seeing the answers in the chat room? I mean, this is the
yeah, I
experiment.
was reading,
No
yeah,
one of us see consciousness as the same thing, folks. That's the experiment.
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
if you would a picture like, and it changes in visualization, but a mist, a gel, a ether that is all present, ever present, um, that has connectivity in it. But I've come to the understanding that there are some people who aren't hooked into that field at all here. They don't have inner dialogue. They don't have the back and forth of of, you know, how we can speak to each other consciously, and we know we've prodded on each other, we know we've messaged each other telepathically, we can feel it palpably. I've come to understand, like Trina, growing into that, knowing that, oh, not everybody feels that. Not everybody feels the inherent connectivity. And so to me, the consciousness, the environment for consciousness is there and connected consciousness is there, but it definitely takes a certain resonance or frequency to be able to hook into that and be able to utilize it. So for some people that I come across that come for readings and stuff, where they're not hooked into that resonance, which however that wide the spectrum might be, they're below that spectrum, they they don't um they don't understand it, they don't get it. There's not that innate feeling of it being there. There's not the innate feeling that I can reach out to Trina telepathically or you telepathically or anyone in the chat when we know we can. We've proved it over and over again. Those
Mhm.
people, it's a bit like taking them into a haunted house. Some people are really hooked into being able to feel those frequency changes around them and respond to them bodily, physically, and spiritually, whereas other people could walk around that same haunted house and be totally unperturbed, not because they're any braver, just because they physically haven't got the resonance that's hooking into the frequencies that other people are hooking into in the same place. So I see that for some people, consciousness really doesn't exist.
Ah,
Um,
good. I'm not to interrupt, but you hit what I
yeah,
was hoping that someone would say, because the argument was made in this discussion in this forum was one of the professors came in and said just that consciousness does not exist. It's
I
a myth.
know.
It's something that we think
You perceive.
exists, but it doesn't exist.
Yes.
So, Jenny, sorry to cut you off, but you hit the magic word, so you get the gold star today. Um,
So it
I'll
doesn't
let you finish
exist.
out your thought on that.
I think it doesn't exist like anything else. You know, when I was born, the problems with my muscles and certain organs, they just didn't have the capacity of the MRIs at the time to be being able, or the tests to do with those same MRIs. They had the same MRI machines, but they didn't know the full capacity of those MRI machines and how to apply them. Now, those MRI machines now could pick up on a condition that I was born with. But prior to that, some of the doctors were saying it doesn't exist. We don't know what's wrong. There's nothing wrong there. There's nothing because their tests weren't picking it up. The resonance of the MRIs wasn't picking it up. And so I think, yes, so that
Mhm.
it's true that it doesn't exist. But then for other people that have got the capacity, the machinery to hook into it, just like they've managed to learn how to use MRIs in a more expansive scope. They're using the same resonance, the same magnets, the same structure, but they're applying it differently and they're seeking
Mhm.
different results. So they're seeing a whole new world to what we used to see with MRIs. They're able to pick things up with the same machinery, but with the knowledge and wisdom to apply it in a different way. So for a lot of people, it doesn't exist, but for a lot of people, it really does exist. And there's a split in the science community as well because we know that they're harnessing and investigating and digging down to find out what they can find out about consciousness because it's such a powerful tool. They use it very often, you know, in CIA, MI5 experiments to train that conscious brain, that telepathic brain. So for me, it fully exists, but I've had to grow and understand that for some people, the way that I talk, the way that I carry the resonance, it doesn't exist for them. So it sounds crazy to them to have this inner dialogue, a telepathic conversation, or a feeling of the ethers around us. So it doesn't exist in the same realm, you
Well,
know.
it exists. It's interesting because science, what we have proven, and we can see it, is within our brains. There is the synaptic pathways. We know that you can make new synaptic pathways within 30 days, and then that becomes an established habit. What we also know is that thought in its originating point is nothing more than a neuron. Now, what makes it fascinating is that these neurons, when they're sent out, there's over 1 trillion different potential possibilities of their destination. Yet each neuron, when it was sent out, because that would be then consciousness, knows exactly where to go to the end receptor in order to make this a photon, or what we would actually call that moment of thought. Now that to me is fascinating. And we see that replica in the universe itself. We can see it
When
now in the total light spectrum, that the universe, this universe, is nothing more than what one could easily construe as a huge brain.
yeah,
This
and when you said
universe. Yeah.
Yeah,
on
yeah.
when you talk about the synapses and the firing off and the receiving of the messages, to me that is a micro event of a hadron collider creating this particle of thought that then has so many actionable alternatives that you can take. It's so expansive. It is like a mini explosion. When you see it on a scan, it looks beautiful, the way that it sparks and flies and receives and pulls. And that works in a kind of magnetism as well because of what the neurons are coated with. You know, that
By the
coating
way,
that
those
makes,
pictures would show its death as well and its
yeah,
destruction.
yeah, yeah.
Does it
And so
continue
we're
on?
in this realm within ourselves, don't
Hmm.
we? With each synapses that receives a message. But then it's actionable by how we receive it, if you know what I mean. So I think we're like walking capacitors, and some people have a capacity to feel um, with the same tools, the same bodies, different realms within realms, and within that same realm and within the same body structure, other people do not. It doesn't exist. You couldn't convince them it exists. Um, and I think they're the people that are far more easily led by others as well, it seems. Um,
Paul Joe makes a good comment. A video camera seems like a consciousness by definition. It's definitely
mhm.
an imprint of that moment of what would be considered that. There's a movie out there. It was not an expensive production, but it was called Magellan. And the basis of the movie was is that NASA picked up 3 distinct signals in our solar system, and that we could not identify these signals, but these signals had what would be appearance of consciousness, right? Intelligence. So the story is this: they get the astronaut. He goes out there and he finds each one of these transmitters, and they're like spears. And during the whole, as he's investigating this, it's discovered through the onboard computer and himself that what really this is that there was something of where every thought that we have, everything that takes place in this universe is focused in one particular point in time. And in this case, they discovered it was out in the Oort cloud. And so he defies NASA's orders, and he's heading out to the Oort cloud to find where the center of consciousness for this universe is at. And the theory, the whole point of the movie was all thought, all thinking is happening simultaneously at the same time. And it appears that it is originating from a central point. And everything that we do, everything that we think is a result of the central point of thought, consciousness, whatever you want to call it.
That's why they call the cloud. And look what it does. It stores all the
Yeah,
information from all the pictures, all the data, all the thought. all at one time. Everything's streaming all at the same time now. And
And that
it is,
is the big goal for the tech titans. They
yeah,
want to upload their consciousness to the cloud.
yes.
If that's even possible. I don't know if it is or not.
I think you
Don't
can upload and download. I think you can also not only upload, you can download. So
Well,
it's
we know we
probably
can
very
download that,
possible.
but I mean, can we physically, Bob, he's got hip dysplasia, little guy, and
Um,
apparently very painful. Um, but yeah, thinking about that, but it gets into that whole thought then, are we merely, is it our thoughts? I mean, are we thinking someone else's thoughts, or are these really individually to us? Because the three of us could be in a room, we can converse, but I'll never know what's really in you, Trina. I'll never be able to touch that.
no.
Um,
But why would
no,
it have to be one or the other? What about
what's
if
that?
it's both?
Of
What
what?
about if
think
you are being influenced by other consciousnesses, but you're also in your own
Are you
conscious field?
influencing other people's consciousness with your consciousness?
Yeah, not only that, there's parts of your body that have been shown to me as you have an internal technology as part of your human body. It's part of the agreement to come into a human body that you're connected to the solar system, you're connected to the stars. These influence you. Bacteria influence you, parasites influence you. There are multitudes of influences to your consciousness. But there's a part of you that is the essence of you. That's the ultimate driver within your physical body, unless you give that power away and you become possessed by a being that's utilizing your human body, which we've seen this is possible. So it's about both. You can't say it's one or the other. There's too much evidence. We're controlled by many things outside of us as well as within us. So I think it's both.
Blazing River points out the voice out of the cloud sounds like God.
Right.
Is
He
God
will
just
come from the
really,
clouds.
you see, it's interesting because, then you get into the theological aspect of, well, then what is God? Is God really a personality, or is God just this conglomeration of thought? I think
Yeah.
one of y'all said earlier, you think about it, they say that there's 8 billion people on this planet. Well, then that would imply that at any given second, there's 8 billion thoughts emanating.
More than
And
that.
yeah, well, someone wrote earlier that says, animals don't seem to have a problem with consciousness.
Now, you
No.
see, I agree with that because where we're at now, I don't think it's actually 8 billion thoughts happening all at once. I do feel there is, with the rise of the influence of 10 people owning 90% of what the whole of America hears, 10 people own the rights to what America hears on a daily basis. That was just a stat I heard earlier today. And it's similar in the UK. Tiny amount of people control the vast amount of information that people absorb each day on mainstream
So is
media, on
information consciousness, or is information,
influences consciousness and
Yes.
actions, I think. So when I do feel it has created a change, a separation in humanity, even more so that I hear a lot more empty heads than I do full heads when I'm walking past them. You walk past somebody and you can pick up on the bustle of their thought pattern, the bustle of their energy. And then you walk past somebody else and it's just completely quiet. They're just them taking the action that they're taking without any sort of questioning behind it, whereas me, Trina, you'd probably hear about 10 thoughts going at the same time when we're thinking about going for some fruit and veg at the same time, pondering different things as we
Mhm.
go on that walk. And I do feel that the way that we've allowed so few to influence so many, and so many have picked up on that and run with it. I do feel we have a lot more empty brain thought matter. I don't hear the noise as much. So I don't think it's a whole 8 billion thoughts happening at the same time. I do think I think they've been called non-playable characters in the past. Um, and I think that can sound a bit derogatory, and I don't mean it to be derogatory, but in that, they're not playing the game, they're playing someone else's game. They're not sort of putting their own stamp on it, like Trina said, the essence of it, the
Mhm.
essence of that perspective of that being. Um, so I don't think there's a full 8 billion thoughts going at the same time.
That's interesting. I
And
mean, that's why we talk on these things. It's just, I happen to have a different point of view. I think that if life is what life is, and I have the opportunity, to see a lot of wildlife, and in the thought of consciousness comes up there. Um, we have this little rabbit that showed up. We don't have rabbits around here. And about 2 months ago, this little baby rabbit shows up. And that rabbit immediately, and you can ask my wife on this, it's very odd. This rabbit seemed to have a connection. Now, I know it's a rabbit. I can't think of a rabbit. I don't know how a rabbit thinks. But I can tell you that over the last couple of months, I bring the food out to this rabbit and it knows that, I'm going to, and it does not run away. He'll actually come up and take a carrot out of my hand. So it's interesting because a squirrel, on the other hand, they react very skittishly. They don't typically trust humans.
Mhm.
And in fact, I can tell you most wildlife does not trust humans.
Mhm.
And so it gets you into that thought, then is that just instinct? Is that just genetics that's within them? But their brains are functioning.
yeah, and that rabbit is choosing against its nature of usually being afraid of humans to choose to create a relationship with you and your wife. And
Cute little guy. He's
um,
gotten that big now.
it's
His name is
actually a
Bugsy.
wizard
Oh.
witch thing, to have a rabbit. It's actually very symbolic that a wizard, a warlock, a witch would always have a rabbit as well as a
Hmm.
cat,
I was
as
unaware of
well as
that. See, I learned and expand my
You
yeah.
know,
consciousness today.
you know what's interesting, Wayne? I just saw a study the other day that was talking about why we can't get pigeons out of our cities and why they don't go out into nature. They typically congregate always where the people are. And you know why that
No.
is because our effect on them changed their behavior. Because back before we had communication, people regarded pigeons as royalty. They were carrier messengers. They were
Yes.
royal parts of the family and they were guarded and protected and loved. And then when we got telephones and communication, we didn't need them anymore. So we kicked them out of our world and treat them like crap. And now they still come back to us for the love. And they know we're going to poison them, we're going to try to kill them, but they can't help it because of the effect our consciousness had on that species. It forever changed it.
Hmm. We have these beautiful turtle doves. I love those things. They
Mhm. We do too. I love
just,
them. Yeah.
but it's interesting about the rabbit, Jenny. I did not know that because this
Yeah.
rabbit, and it will show up at times. And we've been here now for 2 years. In fact, coming up this week. But there's times when that rabbit disappears,
Hmm.
and
Be
then
as
it's
bold.
time when the rabbit comes back.
Yeah, I'd
Hmm.
be as bold as it's a familial of yours that, and again, that your resonance has put that out there and broken a boundary that would usually be there for you and the rabbit to bond so peacefully without it being afraid of you. That's your resonance calling out to the rabbit that you're receptive to it, and that's a beautiful thing. So you have entered into a realm that a lot of other people won't enter into, not because they're bad people, not because, but just because they're not giving out that frequency of I'm ready for you. But I think it's a familial. I do. I really
Jenny, it
do.
came out of nowhere. We don't have rabbits around here. We've talked to our
Wow.
neighbors. They haven't seen rabbits, any rabbits here for decades. And
I
this
do.
little beautiful brown rabbit, it couldn't be but a couple of days old when it showed up. And then and I made a little place for it, and but there's times when it's disappears. We got no freaking idea where it went. So how interesting. Now you got me into something I'm going to have to investigate. A
Yeah,
Yeah,
familiar.
yeah.
I hadn't thought about that.
they're just educating me in chat about the CIA drone pigeons. I was like, I had no idea.
Guy says a dear friend had a baby owl show up and it's not leaving. Wow.
Oh, that's precious.
It is.
Owls always remind me of Lilith. You know,
Uh-huh.
I've
they
got an
do.
owl on today, actually. This is an owl necklace here. I've got an
See?
owl.
Hmm.
I just had that.
It's
Rick
it.
says I had pet rabbits. My evil older brother let them out overnight.
Oh,
Rick,
I had a rabbit too. His name was Stormy. Yeah.
really?
Yeah, I had a rabbit.
Was it a domestic rabbit or was it a wild rabbit?
He was a rescue because he was a dwarf bunny and they were going
Okay.
to get rid of him.
Okay.
So I rescued him to save him from going into the kill thing. So yeah, so he was Stormy. Yeah, but he used to eat my hair. So we had problems. I had to give him to another friend that didn't have long hair.
yeah, I've got the three rabbits. I've got three
How cool
rabbits.
is that?
Yeah, I'd wake up with a mohawk.
Oh,
Oh no, not with your
Yeah,
beautiful
for
hair.
real. He was eating my hair while I was sleeping. I didn't know. And then I was like, what is going on? My hair's breaking off. No, he was eating my hair. Yeah, he was cute though, but he was a handful.
I could
Yeah.
see that. Whoa. Someone says watching the Discovery Netflix series Discovery of Witches. Yeah, that is a well done series. I really like that. Danny says I got visited by two owls, brown and white. One of them, then a Cooper's hawk.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow, I mean, there's something there. I'm not sure what.
It's funny too. Brian has had an owl on his property lately, and
Hmm,
it's been there quite a lot. Mm-hmm.
how
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
Yeah.
Scotty Boy says I had a rabbit too, slept with it one night till I found out how many pellets they.
Right.
Yeah.
He was actually
Yeah,
he was
yeah. We used
really
to
good.
call those smart pills.
Yeah, I kind of potty trained him. He was pretty good about that, but yeah, but he was still a handful. But yeah, he was pretty good.
Wow. And we all got on this thing when we were talking about consciousness. It's one of those things that it's like well, I've had a couple of religious zealots. I don't know why they come here on this channel. Uh, but I it's like, I asked you earlier, Trina, before we went live. So we are basically in the Western world primarily, in this trap that
Mhm.
there's two destinations because everybody has to be a Christian, and Christianity has dominated the premise
Mhm.
of consciousness,
Mhm.
and
It
it
does.
does. It's like you were saying, Jenny, the 10 influencers. It's interesting because it's all predicated from this God spell. So the question that I asked you, Trina, was, well, if you look at this, heaven is supposed to be the place where you go where things are pleasant. I guess no one can define for me what heaven is. But then I
Mhm.
began to think about it. Well, is heaven, if the afterlife exists, and if our purpose is to continue to learn, to continue to gain understanding, quote unquote, then heaven's a trap because
Can't
heaven
be.
is limited. At least the heaven that I was taught as a Christian,
Mhm.
um, heaven is this cube that, according to the book of Revelation, is 1,500 miles wide, 1,500 miles high in its total existence.
Yeah,
And so they could never tell me, what do you do in heaven? What's the purpose of heaven?
right,
I
right.
mean, it's one of these things, and then I'm thinking about the cube, the quantum cube. I really beginning. Someone talked about in the Golden Dawn. By the way, I did pull that up, and it is very deep about this cube, the Kabbalah
Yes,
cube. I mean,
yes.
and and here it is as a reward for those who have been faithful to the gods. Um,
To get back in the box.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
if you're outside the box, You know, you,
Hmm.
now the Jesus character said that there would be wailing, the gnashing of teeth, yada 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 if you're outside the cube.
Well, that's like to keep you there because they don't want to let you go.
Jenny, you're reading
Yeah.
the chat room. I can see your eyes moving.
Yeah, I'm just smiling at people with the animal chat, but the heaven thing for me, it's just another way of controlling people not being fully in the present. Um they're always sort of looking towards something better on the other side, or this final story, this finality that involves heaven. And those that promoted heaven, that made up heaven, they've used it absolutely as a tool of you're not getting in unless you do this, and this. But that changes with each government that passes, with each decade that passes, with each. So this structured heaven all of a sudden doesn't work for those that are conscious and thinking outside of said box, because all of a sudden those rules that applied, that strictly got you into heaven or out of heaven when heaven was made up, now in society you would be called a bigot, or a racist, or a something, because the goalposts have shifted as to what is good and what is bad. Some things aren't frowned upon anymore by the church. So have they changed the seating plan for heaven at the same time? Because they didn't allow certain marriages, they didn't allow certain actions to be taken under the guise of, if you don't do, if you marry this person of the same sex, you won't get into heaven. That's changed now, and I wonder how they got the memo up to this mythical place to say, okay, you can let these people in now. It's a
So it really
structure.
comes down to, when was heaven invented?
Exactly.
I
It
mean, that's
wasn't
the
that long.
question I have. It's like, when did the mythical Adam and Eve, did they know about a heaven? Is this heaven? Is it a different dwelling place than what we were first taught? I mean, does it evolve? We know about hell because of one psycho dude, and the church latched onto that one, and that one has predominated our consciousness for the last nearly 1,000 years. And look what it's done to us.
You know how
Yeah.
you were just talking about the whole what is this consciousness? And it's like, remember, it's like there's multiple layers of consciousness. It's funny. I was just like remembering, like, so our conscious solar logos is a consciousness, and we're all operating within that mental construct here. So I think you're right. Like something else is making our consciousness what it is. And that's why I've seen there's levels of consciousness depending on where you are. So
Mhm.
they would always show me that to circle the square, what happens is you have to break free out of the cube. And when you burst open the cube, it unfolds to a cross. The cross is the polarity, the horizons. And when you can identify that and go into the central point of that, then it breaks free and you become the sphere again. So that's what they were showing me. That's the meaning of when you circle the square. It's because you know that your construct of consciousness, if it's fully expanded to its potential, it goes beyond the universe.
It
So then
unfolds.
yeah, you break free from the cube construct. You break free from the mind of Saturn and the rings that bind us.
So, on what Trina's just said, get this, but the idea of heaven as we understand it, a place in the sky where the righteous go after death to live forever with God.
Is the
This is a concept.
Matrix.
Yeah, this is a concept born to Jews sometime during the second century before the birth of Jesus. It was, if you will, a theological miracle. Heaven at its root is a Jewish idea. In the grand scheme of things, it's not an old idea, and we know that the Talmud was given to a group of people.
But you see, I'd
Again,
have to take, go ahead, Jenny, go ahead. I mean,
that were in
theologically, I
a
would take
certain
issue with that.
we're in a certain consciousness that we're in. But what I'm saying is that these different concepts of heaven, with all the organized religion, in the grand scheme of things, they didn't, none of them seemed to mention heaven and hell until not that long ago, in the grand
Yeah,
scheme of
the
things.
Roman conversion of their religion, because
Yeah,
I almost converted to Judaism, and it is taught there is not a heaven. Jews don't believe in a heaven. What they do believe is that they will be reincarnated, brought back here to Earth, and that they will dominate and rule Earth. They'll rule the people, and this is their gift for serving their God.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're
See,
right.
the ones that truly believe that's all they're here to do is to just reincarnate on this planet. That was shown to me that that is a real serious option that many want to
Oh,
have.
you were saying that earlier, and I
Yeah.
think you're right. A lot of people seek to be
Back on this planet
reborn.
over and over again.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
That's that whole thing with
Wayne,
the
you're
the
like
Christian
me.
idea. Yeah, what's
How
that,
many
hon?
times do we do this before we get too bored? You're like me.
Jeez.
You're gonna be like, okay, I've already done this enough times. It's yeah. I think yeah.
But I never figured it out, and I figured out poquito, but this whole thing about the Jesus. Now, I don't believe that there ever was a Jesus, but that's all
Mhm.
right. But the whole idea is that you're born again.
Reincarnation.
No. And that's the recycling machine.
Yeah,
Why do
but
I
then
need to be reborn? If I'm a spirit, how can a spirit be corrupted?
But
it
all
I
the
don't
can't.
know.
religions go
It
on
can't.
that. You talk about rebirth in Christianity when you get baptized, or when you
And then
come
you
in.
take the infilling of the Holy Spirit, with the
Yeah,
evidence of
Yeah.
speaking in tongues, that's
Yes.
rebirth.
that's your ticket, that tells you you've got the freaking ticket, dude or gal.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
And rather than you just going through that plasma wall like you did when you came out of your mother's womb, and you continue to go through different plasma walls of growth and greater inner standing, of your connectedness of your environment. Instead of that placenta that you constantly go through is under the hood, under the franchise of something that is structured outside of you, an organized religion that is, or political sway that is outside of your influence. You're being influenced as to how you even come through that rebirth, rather than just allowing yourself to know that I've been reborn in perspectives, in wisdom, in knowledge. That experience might have been awful. It was labor intensive, but look, I've been reborn into this, and it's yours to own. It's yours to add and use and have as an ingredient. But when it's hijacked all the time by something outside of you that has then got money and power to influence you and to continue that loop, it is a looping cycle, like Trina says, that a lot of people choose to feel safer doing, this repetitive merry-go-round of
Well, it's the God spell that gets into that, because it's again, um,
The consciousness you were born into, and it was part of the challenge. Could
yeah,
you
because
break
I've got no
free? Yeah.
desire to come back through this experience again. I think the whole idea of coming back in as a baby, as an infant, you think about the struggles you do, that you have to learn the very basic fundamentals.
You know,
Um,
I kind of beg to differ
okay, well,
because
good.
I
That's why we have.
remember. I think you have a strong connection to what was that Greek god I keep sending you, the philosopher guy. I think you're a teacher, Wade, and sometimes it's like, can you please go down and rattle some cages for us? And you're like, okay, well, maybe just for a little while, because I
Well, I'll
think
I'll
that's
take
kind of
from
how we got
chaos.
brought in.
Fuck the gods, it's like I
Yeah,
mean,
but
at some point in time, you just go. You see, I don't know. Maybe I have just come to something else. I can't believe the finite is coming back into this world over and over and over again. That's
People,
hell. To
yeah,
me,
but
that's
see,
hell.
Wayne, I think when your consciousness has evolved to the level of yours to where you kind of understand the construct and how it's working, you don't have the same options others do. You have the options to go outside of that because you have an awareness of it.
It's like I
But
said, many of us are in training as spirit guides. And I don't think
yes,
it's just for this realm.
no, well, I think it's multiple realms. We're multidimensional, so it could be multiple. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you're on different
There's got to
places.
be something more. I mean, the universe is big.
Oh yeah,
And
it's huge.
someone wrote that, aliens are demons. And, you get into that whole debate then, all right, so what constitutes an alien? I mean, in some realms of thought,
Wayne,
we're the aliens.
every time I get into these divisions, every single time they show me the Torah coming in back on itself and collapsing. And that's when you start to
Like a
see,
Taurus field.
yes, you are the whole universe is
Yeah.
inside you in your spark. And it's
Yeah.
emanating out and it's involving back inwards. It is the craziest thing. So, the power that we have to hold image, to see visions, to build with our imagination, this is the magic of creation. And that is what people hopefully someday will come to understand is what the God thing actually is. It's not a God, it's source of all that is. And it's never the same. You'll never be able to block it, lock it, identify it. This demon's right, this angel's right, this Bible's this right. It's no, it's all existing and changing on a quantum level, moment by moment, according to what we see.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
profound.
it's like my hand right now. I'm
Yeah.
holding the universe. I'm holding space time.
Yes.
Now,
In the
people can't
smallest
see the
parts.
micronism of it.
Yeah, and the smallest part
Yeah,
is
it's
the whole
this is
fractal.
space time. This
Yes.
is this is
You
reality.
when when you pray and you put your hands out, when you intercede, there's a reason we put our hands out and our antennas out, and we open them in different ways to receive, the different frequencies like antennas. And when you're interceding over anybody, and as does Trina, you feel the reverberations of that universe within you bouncing up of that into that universe within them. It's what we do. You can feel the
It's how you
layers
lay
of it.
hands on people. I mean, I'm a healer. I can lay hands on people and speak in
Ironically, those
tongues.
hands
Yeah.
and sometimes actual physical laying hands can interrupt the frequency. Often it's very much a hovering and then a laying and a hovering and a laying where you're bringing the energy up and down. And
Have
all
you
I
ever
could
seen
see,
anyone being slain in the spirit, Jenny?
I used to do that to people.
So,
Yeah.
you would actually just walk up to people. You don't have to even touch them, and
Yeah.
they're down for the count. So what is that? Is that God? Is that the Holy
Going
Spirit, or is that us?
That's us, and it's harnessing the energy around us. I knew as
Yeah.
a child, I was sucking the energy in around me, ready to blast it out. And I do the same today. And, it's in a room where everybody is open to your frequency that you're ready to blast out. They're very susceptible to being slain in spirit because they're not questioning it.
Well,
They're,
they
they're
actually
there,
come ready to receive. I mean, my
they're
Bible
open.
teachers were Kenneth Hagin and Kenneth Copeland and John Osteen, and that many people know of his son. But I was taught that when you were infilled with the Holy Spirit, there are 12 gifts of the Spirit. The first one is that all believers receive the gift of speaking in tongues. Then there's the gift of interpretation, but there is a specific gift for healing, and that those healers have this anointing. That's what it's called. It's the anointing of the Holy Spirit, and that is a gift. I
Yeah.
mean, I look back on all those decades that I was so into that, and really what I was practicing was mysticism. I was practicing the occult.
And that's what I heard when you said there's got to be more to
Oh, there
all
has
I
to
could
be.
put a voice is in, but why would you ever doubt? Not that you do, Why would you ever doubt what you feel? Because it's good to search, it's good to discuss, but then it comes down to, like Trina said before, what you feel, what you are, who you're around, and how you interpret all of those messages at the same time. You know, you've had experiences where Lilith has touched you gently, where she's lowered your temperature. She's physically made herself apparent to you in ways that are undeniable. And you can go around in loops sometimes trying to apply the knowledge of the world to those knowings when actually the world is an old MRI. It's not really quite ready in a lot of aspects
Oh,
to
you
know
lay hands
how.
people on today, they'll sue you for assault. You know,
Yeah,
that's how it is. But for
yeah.
myself, when I was anointed into the ministry, I was literally anointed with oil. I had a group of powerful ministers who formed a circle, and literally they anointed my head with oil and spoke in tongues, and there were prophecies. But I can tell you, as I look back now, that was a tangible moment. I mean, it was real. Now I look at it through esoteric eyes, and I realized there was a whole lot more going on. Was I fulfilling my destiny? Was I fulfilling my calling? What was that? And now that I've left the religion, those gifts have not left. I can still pray in tongues. I can still interpret. I can still lay hands on the sick. Yeah, I don't know.
People still congregate around you and want to
They do.
pray and for you and anoint you. And so it's the same experiences, the same skill set, the same consciousness, but applied in a different way, in a different environment, with other different frequencies that are willing. So, but the similarities are amazing because you could put yourself in a room now and you could be preaching again with very little change in
Oh,
who you
I'd probably
are,
be
what
even
you're.
more powerful. I could become very rich if I wanted to get back into the ministry. I
You know
don't
When
what?
want
you're
that.
into that
Your
circle.
power
Pardon?
from doing your power that you learned through those experiences, it's why most people go to religion
Yeah.
is to obtain what you did, because these experiences sometimes can unlock people to their spiritual identity and the truth of what powerful being they actually are. And like you said, this indoctrination opened you up to the abilities and to believe in yourself enough to manifest these great gifts for everybody to have. And when you realize that it wasn't the religion that was given this to you, it was the part of you that's connected to the creation of all that is, and it's bigger than a religion. And when you realize that, now you're breaking the bubbles of so many that were there because you found the truth through the expansion of your own consciousness, which in essence came from a belief in your own power.
And it's interesting you say that, Trina, because and I know we're going over, folks. I apologize for that, but it's a discussion that it's interesting because I don't know how many in the chat room and how many of you are listening. Write in your comments. Do you speak in tongues? Do you have that thing? You see, I question deeply within myself that, all right, I've rejected the doctrine by which I was converted into, and that word converted is it's important. But I stand outside now, and yet I have these gifts they've never left. I
Yes.
can still, in fact, when I communicate to Lilith so many times, it's through the speaking in tongues.
Yeah,
Yes.
It opens me up to something. It's a folks, it's just it's a higher frequency that
That's
is,
what it is. Your
yeah, yeah,
antenna,
yeah,
your
yeah,
antenna is dialed into frequencies
yeah.
that most people can't dial into. And that's exactly what it is, Wayne. And you only can do that with the inner work and the expansion of your own belief system to break the bubbles of what you knew, to explore the newness
Mm,
of the inspirations and the things you're being called
mm,
to
mm.
believe.
See,
And it changes you and
I
you
don't
get
exist
bigger.
here. I exist here.
Yes.
This
Yes.
is
You
what I
win.
know. It's this is my essence. When I leave this body, this is how
Yes.
I'm going to be leaving.
Yes.
And
yeah.
who knows? It'll be on the gilded tongues of the language of angels. I don't know.
The other thing about
Well,
tongues,
Y'all two are
right.
angels to me. So, that's my
As
belief.
you're an
And,
angel to me. Yes.
yeah,
just the way it is, that's all I
the
can say.
ink, tongues for me go into like the invisible ink where I can speak more freely into the ethers also without the interruption of outside forces or the distortion of outside messaging or forces when I go into tongues. So you know those cool pens when you were a kid that were invisible ink until
Yeah,
you had
yeah.
the right to the right. That's what tongues can be like for me sometimes, that it's an adept protection tool as well, that I know I'm speaking directly to who or what I want to speak to with
Mm.
less
True story.
interference.
I was in Atlanta, Georgia. This was back in 19, when was that? Oh, 19, excuse me, it was 2003. And a black dude came up to me and was going to rob me. Had a gun. And I just started speaking in tongues. I swear that all I could see was the white of his eyes. I don't know what he saw. I have no idea. But he turned around and he says, forgive me, man, and just starts
You saw
walking,
your
running
light.
down the road. I mean,
You
and
saw
that's all
your
I did.
light.
I said,
Well,
and he just freaked the fuck
yeah.
out.
Yeah. He saw something
Woo.
that was holy to him that made him knew that if he crossed with this, he would offend his own belief system. So he
Yeah,
ran
he
from you.
ran. Folks, we got to wrap this up. I got to be
Yes,
with Mr.
I gotta
Ryder at the
go.
top of the hour. So,
Yeah,
God, this was a great discussion, ladies. As I said, y'all are two angels to me.
you're an
Yeah.
angel to me. And you too,
You
Jenny.
are my special
You guys are
angel.
my power trinity in this world. You're my trinity. The tree of my consciousness, all blended. I see it in Jenny. I see it in Wayne. I see it in me. And I see
Thank,
different aspects of myself in you. So thank you for being a part of me.
Thank
and
all of
you,
y'all. So much
you.
love to
Mhm.
you. I love this group.
Me too.
If there is one thing I covet besides my marriage, it's this group. And
Me too.
it's just a
Yeah.
fact. And
Like
you
my
too.
family and this family.
Yeah.
The two
You
most
don't
important
fuck
things.
with the family, man. That's all I got to say. You just don't. We'll kick your ass.
Yeah, could be bad.
All right, ladies. Hope to see y'all next week. Jenny as
Yes.
well. Give our hug
Me-
to Theo.
Thank
yes.
you. I'm gonna go and comb through his hair now and see what the oils have done.
Okay.
Right
Trina, much
on.
love to you, dear. See you next week
Much
as well.